Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to the unboxing video for the D&D starter set. This is actually 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, which is a new product that is coming out this year. The first thing to come out is the starter set. It will be followed shortly by the official player's handbook. Shortly after that, there'll be the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monstrous Manual. Not everything is coming out quite at the same time, which is something they did with 4th edition, and frankly, some of the QA kind of fell a little bit short. So they're going back with the way that they did it for 3rd edition, which was to release one book at a time, and each book, with the player's handbook, you're going to be able to play the entire game. Dungeon Master will just include extra details for extra depth, and then finally the Monstrous Manual will include lots and lots of extra monsters, for example. So I think it's probably a good idea to go back to that, and hopefully we'll have lots of content to actually play and enjoy the game while we wait for the rest of the products to come out with. So we're going to start by talking about the starter set, which I believe comes out on July the 15th, although, you know, check your local stuff just in case I happen to be lying to you. Now, this starter set is meant to be something that you can play right out of the box. It comes with a pre-made adventure, it comes with pre-made characters, and some basic rules for knowing how to go through those. This set does not include rules for creating your own characters from scratch, and the level up mechanics are basically predetermined on the back of the character sheets. Do not despair though, because things are actually a little bit better than you might imagine. If you go to the actual Dungeons & Dragons website, you can find the basic rules for Dungeons & Dragons available as a free download. This is a free PDF. They're doing something completely different this time around, where the basic rules will all be available online for free. It's 100 pages of information. It includes everything you need to run a cleric, fighter, rogue, or wizard from level 1 through 20. It includes the character creation rules as well as the level up options. Apparently includes dwarf, elf, halfling, and human as race options out of the box. 120 spells, 5 backgrounds, and some character sheets. Totally for free, which is kind of a cool thing. Now, that will basically act as kind of a proxy to the player's handbook before that actually comes out. So, the starter set is something that is very cool for you to grab if you want a pre-made adventure. That's the big thing. It's great for new players, and it is great if you want a pre-made adventure, which is really the sort of bulk of what this is. But other than that, you can technically, I suppose, make do with just the basic PDF if you want to do that. But there you go. I'm not sure what your retail price will be in your region, because it will vary absolutely greatly, especially if you got to get it shipped out to you. So let's go ahead, open this up. I've removed the shrink wrapping. The very first thing I see are some dice. Of course, again, this is meant to really be an introduction thing. Now, there is one of every type of polyhedron in here, but that's all. There's no percentile dice, and there's only one 6-sided die. Obviously, if you're a Dungeons & Dragons veteran, you're already going to have dice, which is good, or if not, you might want to purchase a few more. If you are playing this with friends, it actually is quite nice to have a few more extra dice on the table, so get yourself one of those tubes filled with dice, and you'll have yourself a great time. Next thing up, we've got the starter set rule book. So this is a book that is 32 pages long in total and covers the following chapters: How to Play, which has Getting Started and the 6 abilities; Chapter 2, Combat, Order of Combat, Movement and Position, Actions in Combat, Making an Attack, Cover, Damage and Healing; Chapter 3, Adventuring, covers travel, resting, rewards, and equipment. Chapter 4, Spellcasting, what is a spell, casting a spell, spell lists, and spells. And it looks like there's about maybe 9 pages worth of spells in here. If we go over to the spell list area, we can see that this book covers spells up to a 3rd level of both the cleric and the wizard, but I think doesn't have probably what will be the full set of spells in here. For example, there's 9 spells for level 1, and I suspect that the actual, full rules will probably have more than that. I actually haven't looked at the free PDF yet, because they just put it live, so we'll take a look at that after. There will be a follow-up video after this one talking about the differences in rules between this 5th edition, 4th edition, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, and all there, where they grab the inspiration. But this 5th edition is much more similar to 3rd or 2nd edition than it is 4th edition. 4th edition will, I think, forever stand out as a bit of an oddity in the Dungeons & Dragons sort of continuum. It's not a bad set of rules, actually, but it's not really Dungeons & Dragons entirely. Anyway, so yeah, it's got that. It's got the cantrips. It does have the new system where the cantrips can be cast at will and without preparation, which is really nice. One of my favorite things from 4th edition was that, so much so that in my regular campaign where we play a heavily modified 3.5 ed. We've done that as well, where the cantrips can be cast at will. And it's kind of a handy little thing that doesn't hurt the game. In fact, seems to help quite a bit. So that is the basic starter set rulebook. Probably everything in here will be redundant with the free PDF, but again, very newbie friendly. A great way to introduce new players to Dungeons and Dragons, because one of the things that seems to be going on here with this 5th edition is a lot less like weird edge rule cases. Should be easier to pick up, but at the same time is more of one of these theater of the mind things than sort of a miniatures combat game. So 4th edition was a very tactical miniatures based kind of thing, and it did that very well. But old school D&D was more you did it in your head, and I don't know, maybe it was more of an RPG than 4th edition was. And in any case, it seems it's probably going to be a great way to introduce people to that. The next thing, and again, this is really the bulk of the starter set, is the adventure, which is the Lost Mine of Phandelver. And this is quite a bit thicker, still soft cover, but is 64 pages long, so twice as big. It has several parts to it, and it's got 2 appendices. Appendix A is magic items, and Appendix B is monsters. And actually, monsters might be a really good one to look at, because especially if we don't have a monsters manual, we'll be relying on these sorts of adventure sources for our basic monsters. So first it starts off with blocks on different rules, statistics, traits, saving throws, abilities, challenge rating and experience points, that sort of thing. And then we got the monsters. Bugbear, Commoner, Cultist, Doppelganger, Evil Mage, Flame Skull, Ghoul, Giant Spider, Goblin, Grick, Hobgoblin, Mormesk the Wraith, Nesnar the Black Spider, Nothic, Ochre Jelly, Ogre, Orc, Owlbear, a Red Brand Ruffian, which is just a human sort of roguey type person, Sildar Hallwinter, which at a glance looks like it might be a sort of a ranger type, looks like dual weapon kind of melee fighter, Skeleton Spectator, which is a type of aberration, which I'm not actually familiar with. Might have come up with one of the like later monstrous manuals or something like that, probably not in the basic set, unless I'm being stupid. Sturge, Twig Blight, Wolf, Young Green Dragon, and a zombie. Very cool. That includes a dragon in here, which apparently has got multi-attacks with its bite and claws, and a poison breath. One of the things I do like at a glance here is with all the sources of damage, with all the attacks, they tell you what the attack roll is. So, for example, this green dragon, does a bite that is 2d10 plus 4. However, oh, and poison damage as well. But it also gives you what the average will be. So it says 15. So if you're looking for speed, you can just use those 15s. It's actually one of the things. Again, I play a 3.5 edition with my friends. But what we have borrowed from 4th edition is the idea of minions, and especially the sort of fixed damage that they can be. That way you don't have to roll tons and tons of extra dice for punitive damage if it comes up. So you can easily say, you can just say, oh, take 5 instead of take, 1d8 plus 1 or something like that, which can save a little bit of time, and I like quite a bit. So this adventure, I haven't gone through the adventure yet. This is not a review of the actual contents in any way. Plus, I certainly want to avoid spoilers. But there you go. It's very hefty and does include some nice illustrations. We've got maps, and again, these are not necessarily tactical combat maps. We've got that whole, it's the theater of the mind that they're really going back to here. So these, are. Well, this is actually a 5-foot step squares on these, so I guess technically you could draw this out on your wet erase battle mat, if you're as lucky as my group is, and do your combat on there if you would very much like to do that. We got the Red Brand hideout here, and a few other illustrations just for kicks. Some sort of, I guess that's what a Nothic is. I don't know, but there you have it. The next thing in this box are some pre-made character sheets. Oops. Must have messed this up earlier when I popped it open. So there you go. We've got some pre-made character sheets. They've got 2 sides worth of stuff, and I'm sorry that doesn't really come out very well on the screen. Front and back. So we've got all your stats already written out. This is a fighter, level 1 fighter, noble background, human, lawful, neutral. So strength of 16, dexterity of 9. This is again going back to that sort of 3rd edition system. Your strength of 16 gives you a +3. I guess 4th edition was the same way there. It's got armor class, initiative, your speed, hit points, skills, and we're back to having like sort of skills written down a little bit more explicitly again, as well as some background information on their personality and so on and so forth, which you could use as is or ignore. Again, the idea is this is for new players who don't necessarily have the ability to make new characters, but also might need a little bit of hand-holding as to, well, how are you supposed to behave in this game? So again, the noble background says, my flattery makes those I talk to feel wonderful and important. Also, I don't like to get dirty, and I won't be caught dead in unsuitable accommodations. So it gives you those hints for new players. On the back, in addition to descriptions of what it means to be a human or a fighter and what your background means, there's also a section on gaining levels, because again, this rule set that comes in this box does not include rules for character creation or leveling up. If you want to make your own custom character, you grab the free PDF from the website. But if you're using this pre-made character and you don't necessarily have the ability to make good decisions as to, well, how do I level up? What's involved in that? Here it just says, when you get to second level, which happens at 300 XP for this fighter, you gain the Action Surge ability, which allows you to push yourself beyond your normal limits for a moment. On your turn, you can take one additional action on top of your regular action and a possible bonus action. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you use it again. So some of these ideas, short and long rest, this would be, in 4th edition, would be called an encounter power. So some of those concepts remain, and I think they're pretty damn solid. I was actually a fan in the Eberron campaign setting in 3.5. There were these action points that you could do weird things with, and they regenerated using different rules, and they turned out to be pretty fun. And then you've got the Tome of Battle stuff from 3.5 that introduced some of those mechanics as well. And some people like the Tome of Battle and some people hate it, but, you know, in any case, they added some new mechanics that turned out to be pretty promising, and they used in 4th edition. Now they're sort of like, listen, let's go back to a 2nd/3rd edition style of Dungeons & Dragons, but incorporate some of these ideas from this. Oh, and I keep getting ahead of myself. I'm going to do a follow-up video where we talk about these differences a little bit more. So anyway, that is what's left here. So we've got this, this noble fighter, we've got a cleric soldier, Hildwarf, a rogue criminal Lightfoot halfling, a wizard with an acolyte background who's a high elf, chaotic good, and another fighter. This one's a folk hero background, human lawful good. Are both fighters human? Indeed they are. It's kind of interesting that we've got one that is a noble and one that is a folk hero. And then the last thing in the box is a pamphlet for the D&D Encounters thing, which is to go to your local sort of gaming store or comic store where you can buy these products, and they will host D&D adventure nights like that. And they talk about build your character and play at a store near you. They do have a blank character sheet on the back, although I don't like, this is the sort of I don't know, waxy, glossy paper. I don't think it's a very good one for writing on. I guess the idea is you photocopy this. Yeah, and it tells you at the bottom you're allowed to photocopy this. So you can photocopy this, and then you've got your own character sheets there. Or, of course, if you just grab the PDFs online, they'll also come with some photocopies. And that is it. That is it for the box. And so that is the starter set. Stay tuned for the follow-up video where we talk about like what's the deal with 5th edition D&D and how does it differ from 4th edition, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, advanced D&D, basic Dungeons & Dragons, and so on and so forth. I can't remember all the names for the stuff that came before. And yeah, so there you go. There is the basic starter edition. And down below I'll include a link to the place where you can go and download the basic rules PDF if you want to do that yourself. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.